Most people move through their days with a constant underlying pressure, an invisible weight that comes from saying yes far too often. You have probably experienced it yourself. You find yourself agreeing to tasks at work that add little value to your own goals, committing to social obligations that leave you exhausted, or offering help to friends and family out of a sense of duty rather than genuine willingness. Over time, these constant yeses accumulate. They drain your energy, fragment your focus, and leave you with little space for what truly matters. There is a pervasive belief in society that saying yes equates to kindness, loyalty, or virtue. You are conditioned to equate refusal with selfishness or unkindness. Yet the reality is far more nuanced. Saying no is not inherently negative. It is, in fact, a fundamental act of self-respect, a practice of clarity, and a means of protecting the limited resource that is your time. The difficulty of saying no without guilt arises from multiple sources. One of the most common is fear. Fear of disappointment, fear of judgment, and fear of conflict can all compel you to agree to things against your better judgment. You might fear that refusing a colleague will make you appear uncooperative, or that declining a family member's request will make you seem uncaring. Another source of difficulty is habit. Many people have spent years defaulting to yes. It becomes automatic, a reflex ingrained through repeated social conditioning. A third, and perhaps most insidious source is guilt. You have been taught that your value lies in your willingness to accommodate, in your availability to others. The very act of saying no, therefore, triggers a sense of wrongdoing, even when the refusal is entirely justified. Understanding these sources of discomfort is the first step in gaining mastery over them. Recognizing that fear, habit, and guilt are responses rather than truths empowers you to act despite them. Consider the case of Amanda, a mid-level manager at a marketing firm. Amanda's calendar was packed with meetings, committee responsibilities, and last-minute project requests from colleagues. Every time a new request appeared, she felt obliged to say yes, even if it meant staying late or working through weekends. Over time, Amanda's performance began to suffer. Her attention to detail declined, her creativity diminished, and she became irritable with both colleagues and family members. She felt trapped, as if she were living everyone else's life except her own. After weeks of internal struggle, Amanda decided to take a step back and evaluate her commitments. She realized that she had been confusing obligation with responsibility and that her time and energy were finite. She began to politely decline new requests that did not align with her primary objectives, framing her refusals in a professional and assertive manner. Initially, Amanda experienced discomfort and mild guilt, but she noticed an immediate improvement in focus and productivity. By saying no selectively, she reclaimed control over her schedule, which allowed her to deliver higher quality work and enjoy her personal life without lingering resentment. You can find similar lessons in the domestic sphere. Consider Michael, a father of two, who struggled with social expectations from friends and extended family. Invitations to gatherings, volunteer opportunities at school, and community events were all important, but they cumulatively consumed hours that Michael intended to devote to family time, personal exercise, and rest. Michael felt obligated to accept each invitation, fearing that refusal would create conflict or disappointment. Over time, the pressure became palpable, manifesting as stress and fatigue. Michael realized that the constant yes were preventing him from being fully present with his children. He began to implement boundaries, explaining to friends and family that while he valued their companionship, he could only commit to events that fit within his family's schedule. These early refusals were challenging, and he did experience guilt. Yet over months, he noticed that relationships did not deteriorate as he feared. Rather, his friends and family came to respect his consistency and clarity. Michael learned that his no's allowed him to say yes to the people and activities that truly mattered. The practice of saying no without guilt requires both awareness and intentionality. The first step is to clarify your priorities. Without a clear understanding of what is essential, every request feels like an emergency, and every refusal feels like failure. Take time to define your goals, responsibilities, and boundaries. These priorities act as a compass, guiding you toward judicious yes and deliberate no's. Once your priorities are clear, you can evaluate each request against them. Does accepting this obligation support your primary objectives, or does it divert your energy from them? Does it enrich your life, or simply fill your schedule with busy work? This evaluative process transforms the act of refusal from one of personal rejection to one of strategic alignment. You are no longer saying no out of selfishness or fear. You are saying no in order to preserve the quality and integrity of your life. The method of delivering no is equally important. Politeness does not require over-explanation, and assertiveness does not necessitate hostility. A simple and direct statement, such as, "I am unable to take this on at the moment," or "I am not available, but I wish you the best," communicates your decision clearly and respectfully. Avoiding convoluted excuses prevents unnecessary negotiation and reduces the likelihood of guilt. Additionally, framing your no in terms of your own commitments rather than the other person's request emphasizes your autonomy. "I have committed to focusing on my current projects" is far more empowering than "I can't because you asked too late." By using such language, you reinforce that your refusal is a reflection of your priorities and values rather than a judgment on the person making the request. Real-life scenarios further illustrate these principles. Consider Sophia, a university student who balanced coursework, part-time employment, and volunteering commitments. Sophia frequently agreed to extra tutoring sessions and social events to avoid disappointing classmates and friends. Over time, her academic performance suffered, and she experienced chronic fatigue. Recognizing the pattern, Sophia instituted a deliberate no practice. She began to decline additional tutoring sessions when her schedule was full and politely turned down social invitations that conflicted with study and rest. She provided alternative solutions where possible, such as recommending fellow students who could assist, thereby maintaining goodwill while protecting her own energy. Gradually, Sophia noticed improvements in both performance and well-being. Her no's, far from alienating her peers, elevated her credibility as someone who was reliable, focused, and respectful of her own limits. Saying no without guilt also requires managing internal reactions. Guilt, fear, and concern about perception are natural responses that may persist even after a refusal. It is essential to separate these emotions from reality. Feeling guilty does not imply wrongdoing. It is merely an emotional signal indicating that a boundary has been exercised. Recognize that other people's disappointment is their responsibility, not yours. Your task is to act in alignment with your values and priorities. Cognitive reframing can be effective. Replace self-directed thoughts such as, "I am being selfish," with, "I am honoring my commitments and protecting my well-being." Over time, repeated practice and reflection reduce the intensity of these emotional responses. Another aspect of saying no effectively is timing. Immediate responses are not obligatory. You may find it helpful to pause before committing to any request, using phrases like, "Let me check my schedule and get back to you," or "I need to consider my priorities before confirming." This pause allows for thoughtful evaluation, reduces impulsive yes, and strengthens your confidence in refusal decisions. Delaying your response in a considered manner demonstrates intentionality rather than avoidance, reinforcing that your time and attention are valuable. Examples extend to friendships as well. Consider Jason, who maintained a large social circle and often found himself attending events he did not genuinely enjoy, simply to avoid conflict or disappointment. Over time, the routine of obligatory socializing left him feeling disconnected and fatigued. Jason decided to implement boundaries by reducing attendance to events that held genuine meaning for him. He communicated clearly and respectfully with friends, explaining that he needed to focus on personal projects and family. While some friends expressed initial surprise, most respected his honesty and appreciated the clarity. As a result, Jason's social interactions became more meaningful, his energy increased, and his relationships deepened rather than waned. Beyond individual examples, the broader benefits of learning to say no without guilt are substantial. Reclaimed time enables engagement in pursuits that are personally enriching and professionally productive. Energy conserved from avoiding unnecessary obligations can be redirected to health, learning, creativity, and rest. Boundaries established through thoughtful refusals foster respect from colleagues, friends, and family, as they signal consistency, integrity, and self-awareness. Importantly, the act of saying no creates a feedback loop of personal empowerment. The more you honor your limits, the more confident and competent you become in navigating complex social and professional landscapes. While the principle of saying no is simple, mastery is an iterative process. It requires continual reflection on priorities, consistent practice in varied contexts, and the courage to maintain boundaries despite social pressure. Begin with small refusals in low-stakes scenarios, gradually building the skill to address more significant obligations. Documenting experiences, noting internal reactions, and observing outcomes can provide insight into effective strategies and reinforce the alignment of actions with core values. Finally, the act of saying no without guilt is not merely a tool for self-preservation. It is a catalyst for intentional living. When you exercise the right to refuse, you are consciously choosing where your focus lies. You are determining which relationships, activities, and responsibilities merit your attention. You are affirming the primacy of your goals and values. This deliberate approach fosters not only productivity and well-being but also a sense of autonomy and purpose that permeates all aspects of life. In conclusion, learning to say no without guilt is a skill that empowers you to reclaim your life from the pressures of expectation and obligation. By understanding the psychological origins of guilt, fear, and habit, clarifying your priorities, practicing direct and respectful refusal, and observing the positive consequences of boundary setting, you can navigate social, familial, and professional spheres with confidence and integrity. Real-life examples from work, family, and friendships illustrate that initial discomfort and guilt diminish over time, while focus, energy, and respect increase. Saying no is an affirmation of self-worth and a commitment to intentional living. Every time you refuse an obligation that does not serve your objectives, you create space for what truly matters. Your relationships, your work, your personal growth, and your well-being are strengthened. Ultimately, mastering the art of saying no without guilt allows you to live a life aligned with your deepest values and most meaningful aspirations, free from the unnecessary burdens of misplaced obligation, and fully empowered to choose the path that is right for you.